We interrupt this broadcast for breaking news. Brigitte Bardot, the French sex kitten who gave up movies for animal rights, has died at 91.
The world has lost one of the most recognizable and controversial cultural figures of the 20th century. Brigitte Bardot, the woman whose image redefined beauty, femininity, and freedom for an entire generation, has died at the age of 91. For Americans, Bardot was more than a foreign film star. She was a symbol of European glamour, rebellion, sexual liberation, and later, fierce moral conviction. Her life unfolded in dramatic chapters: meteoric fame, early retirement, radical activism, and outspoken views that often divided public opinion. Tonight on U.S. Media Power, we bring you a comprehensive, in-depth narrative of Brigitte Bardot's life, from her early years in Paris to her explosive rise in cinema, her decision to abandon Hollywood-level fame, her decades-long fight for animal rights, the controversies that followed her, and finally, her death and legacy. This is not just an obituary. This is the story of a woman who never lived quietly, even when she left the screen. Brigitte Anne-Marie Bardot was born on September 28, 1934, in Paris, into a conservative, upper-middle-class family. Her father was an engineer, her mother deeply concerned with social discipline and traditional values. From early childhood, Bardot struggled with rigid expectations. She later described feeling constrained by the rules imposed on her, an early sign of the independence that would define her life. Her escape came through dance. Bardot trained rigorously in ballet at the Conservatoire de Paris, developing posture, discipline, and grace. Though she never became a professional ballerina, the training shaped her physical confidence and screen presence. As a teenager, her striking beauty began attracting attention. At just 15 years old, she appeared on the cover of Elle magazine, an event that would quietly open the door to cinema. Bardot's film career began modestly in the early 1950s, with small roles that showcased her natural charisma. But everything changed in 1956 with the release of And God Created Woman. Directed by Roger Vadim, whom Bardot married soon after, the film shocked audiences on both sides of the Atlantic. Bardot's portrayal of Juliette Hardy was unapologetically sensual, emotionally raw, and utterly modern. In post-war America, the film was controversial. Some critics called it scandalous, others called it revolutionary. But audiences could not look away. For the first time, a female character on screen embodied sexual autonomy without shame. Hollywood took notice. So did fashion designers, philosophers, musicians, and political commentators. Brigitte Bardot was no longer just an actress, she was a cultural earthquake. The American press quickly branded Bardot as the French sex kitten, a label that followed her for decades. While the term boosted her fame, it also trapped her inside a narrow public identity. Bardot herself later expressed discomfort with being reduced to a sexual symbol, arguing that her intelligence, creativity, and emotional depth were ignored. Yet, paradoxically, she also understood the power of her image. Bardot did not reject sensuality, she rejected control. In an era when female stars were tightly managed by studios, Bardot lived openly, loved freely, and resisted authority. That defiance made her both admired and criticized. For young women in the United States, Bardot represented an alternative to Hollywood's polished perfection. She was imperfect, spontaneous, and real. Between the late 1950s and early 1970s, Bardot became one of the highest-paid and most photographed women in the world. Her films included Contempt, 1963, directed by Jean-Luc Godard; Viva Maria, 1965, Le Verite, 1960. She worked with leading European directors and actors, bridging art house cinema and mainstream appeal. American critics often struggled to categorize her. Was she an actress, a muse, or a cultural symbol? In truth, she was all three. Her influence extended beyond film. The Bardot neckline became a fashion staple. Her hairstyle inspired trends worldwide. Songs were written about her. Andy Warhol immortalized her image in pop art. By her early 30s, Bardot had achieved what most performers spend a lifetime chasing. And then, she walked away. In 1973, at age 39, Brigitte Bardot announced her retirement from acting. For American audiences, this was almost unimaginable. Why leave at the peak of fame? Bardot cited exhaustion, disillusionment, and emotional strain. She described the film industry as suffocating and artificial. Fame, she said, had cost her peace. But there was another reason, one that would redefine her life: animals. Bardot's love for animals had existed since childhood. But it intensified after witnessing graphic footage of slaughterhouses in the early 1960s. She was horrified. Unlike many celebrities who lend their names to causes quietly, Bardot became confrontational. She wrote letters, organized protests, and used her fame aggressively. In 1977, her protest against the killing of baby seals in Canada made international headlines. Images of Bardot on icy terrain, holding seals, appeared across American media. She was no longer a movie star advocating from a distance. She was on the front lines. In 1986, Bardot founded the Brigitte Bardot Foundation, dedicated to animal protection worldwide. She funded it by auctioning off personal belongings, jewelry, clothing, memorabilia, effectively converting fame into activism. The foundation focused on ending animal cruelty, rescuing abused animals, fighting bullfighting, supporting shelters and sterilization programs. For decades, Bardot worked tirelessly behind the scenes, writing letters to world leaders, lobbying governments, and financing rescue operations. In the United States, animal rights organizations acknowledged her as one of the earliest global celebrity activists to make animal welfare a mainstream issue. Bardot's activism earned admiration, but her outspoken political and social views sparked backlash. In later years, she made statements about immigration, religion, and French identity that led to multiple legal convictions in France for inciting hatred. These controversies complicated her legacy. Supporters argued she spoke from conviction. Critics argued she crossed moral and legal boundaries. For American audiences, Bardot became an example of how cultural icons can evolve in unpredictable and uncomfortable ways. She never apologized for expressing her beliefs. Bardot's personal life was turbulent. She married 4 times, each relationship reflecting a different stage of her emotional journey. She had 1 son, Nicolas Jacques Charrier, a relationship that remained strained for much of her life. Behind the glamour, Bardot battled depression, loneliness, and suicide attempts, struggles she later acknowledged openly. Her vulnerability contrasted sharply with her public image, reminding audiences that fame offers no immunity from pain. After retiring, Bardot lived quietly in Saint-Tropez, rarely giving interviews and avoiding public appearances. She focused almost exclusively on animal welfare, writing letters daily and managing foundation efforts well into her late 80s. In an age of social media, Bardot remained stubbornly analog, a woman from another era who refused to adapt to modern celebrity culture. In 2025, Bardot's health declined. She was hospitalized following surgery and faced complications related to age. Despite this, she continued advocating for animals until the very end. Her final public messages reportedly focused on animal adoption, a fitting conclusion to her life's mission. Chapter 12: Death and Global Reaction. On December 28, 2025, Brigitte Bardot died at her home in southern France. Tributes poured in from across the world. Filmmakers praised her cultural impact, activists honored her dedication. Politicians acknowledged her influence. French leaders described her as a woman who embodied freedom. American media reflected on her as both icon and provocateur. Brigitte Bardot leaves behind a legacy that defies simplicity. She was a revolutionary actress, a feminist symbol, whether she embraced the term or not, a pioneer of celebrity activism, a deeply flawed human being. Her life challenges us to ask difficult questions about fame, responsibility, and moral conviction. Brigitte Bardot did not seek approval. She lived boldly, loved fiercely, and believed passionately, even when it cost her admiration. For the United States audience, her story remains a powerful reminder that cultural influence can evolve into moral action, and that legacy is rarely clean or comfortable.